Hello, everyone. Welcome to It's Sybil. I am Sybil Wilkes, and holding up the world are our three guys here today. Hey, Cameron, how are you?
Hey, Sybil, I'm doing well.
Good, good. And young Damon, how are you?
I'm doing well as well, and thanks for that.
and young Big Med, how are you? Holding up the world.
I'm doing great, Sybil. How you feeling? Shout out to Cameron for holding it down for me last week. Held it just for a little bit, but good. I appreciate the shout out, though. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Halloween was something
Absolutely.
else last week. Thank you.
Halloween was something, wasn't it, for you?
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be a short walk out there, and it turned into something else.
What kind of haul did you get?
It was a good haul. It was a good haul. He did a good job, and I did my job as a parent to make sure that the candy was safe. As a parent, I now know it was all BS back in the day. What are they doing to the candy? What are they really gonna do? As long as they're not giving you like apples and oranges and stuff like that, toss that.
Right.
But if it's a package and it's all they were doing was taste testing, that's all they were doing. The parent tax, that's all that was.
That's right.
Making
So
sure
let
that
me
the
ask
candy
you,
was safe.
what do you think about the things that Jimmy Kimmel used to do? I don't know if he did it this year or not, or if he's still doing it. Where the day after Halloween, they'd wake up and the candy would be gone, and tell the kids, "I ate all your candy." Is that ever?
Trauma.
Oh, that was
That
such a
is
cruel
good.
bit. It was so those
But it
kids
was
would
so great.
lose it. Oh,
Right.
they would lose it, man. That was awesome with Jimmy. Jimmy is my favorite talk show host because he
Mine
does
too.
stuff like that. Yeah.
And you don't
I,
care.
Yeah, Jimmy
I
Greer.
think his comedy is very incisive in terms of the political observation he makes and the pranks that he does, and he's a good one to pull a prank on. He's very generous
Mm-hmm.
in that respect too. I don't
And
know if
yeah,
you all.
he asks questions that you want to hear the answers to.
Yeah,
Like he'll go beyond the surface of what an interview should be. And that's Jimmy Kimmel. Shouts out to him. I did his club. I haven't met him yet, but I did do his club with Lunel.
oh,
Oh,
with
cool.
Lunel, I bet that was great. Yeah,
It
that's
I'll,
was.
I'll I'll say this: when during the strike, the writer
mhm,
strike, what
mhm.
the late night host did on that podcast,
Yeah,
amazing.
that was pretty good stuff,
And they didn't
wasn't
put
it?
out they only put out clips of the video. They didn't put out like YouTube videos. You had to listen to it for the whole
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
that was very wild hearing them all together, like doing a show together. That thing was crazy.
So, for folks who don't know, during the writer's strike, obviously the late night shows were off, and all of the late night, all of the white men who were hosts of the late night talk
All
shows
right.
got together, the Jimmys, Kimmel, and Fallon, as
Mm-hmm.
well as Stephen Colbert, and there was one more. It was
The other little corny dude, that Seth Meyers.
Seth Meyers and
Hmm.
And
who was it?
HBO, the guy who
Yeah,
wins all the
last
awards every
week.
year,
Yeah, last week.
last week
The
tonight.
English,
Oh,
the
John
Englishman,
Oliver.
Yeah, John
John
Oliver.
Oliver. Thank you.
Yeah,
So
John is
they,
a brilliant dude. Yeah.
yeah. John's really funny.
I'm not crazy about his show, but I do like him. But like you said, they all got together and they had this podcast, and it was really quite clever, and it was pretty much as far as I could tell, was very much off the cuff, and so
Yeah.
I
No,
enjoyed
no
that.
Bill Maher on that thing.
No, he didn't.
That would have been the turnoff for me. Not the biggest Bill Maher fan of him as a man or as a host. So
Yeah,
sorry about that.
all right. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's just me. That's just me. But he has a lot of my friends. I see them on his show, and they seem to enjoy it. So so much the better. Let's talk about.
Fancy friends you got there. A lot of her friends are on TV on HBO like that. I like it
some
simple.
some of my friends who are newsmakers and news shakers
Yeah.
on.
Exactly.
I remember going to his show when it was back on ABC back in the day.
Mm.
Tavis Smiley was a guest, and that's when I was living in LA, and met him. It was kind of weird. It was kind of strange
Yeah.
out backstage there, but what do I know?
Well,
Um,
you're his flavor.
I am. You're right. You're right.
I'm just saying.
So let's talk about the What You Need to Know newsletter. Now that we've talked about Halloween and candy and
And Bill
pranks and all
Maher.
that good stuff. And Bill Maher. Let's talk about the What You Need to Know newsletter. This is our Monday through Friday newsletter in which we seek to super serve the African American community by informing and empowering them with our news stories. We have politics. Our man Cameron Riley here is our political contributor. We also have social justice. That is our contributor is Coy Malone. The LGBTQ plus is the birthday girl to be. That is Cameron's little sister, Quinn Townsend Riley. And we have mental health and wellness contributed by April Russell. And on top of that, we also have the Little No Black History Fact. We give you HBCU Corner, as well as Black and Fit. That is our girl Cherie White does an amazing job living the truth that she gives us in the What You Need to Know newsletter. As a yoga instructor, as a clean and healthy living person, she gives us a lot of tips there. We also give you a little bit of inspiration with Yogi's Jewel. This week, the theme is about sleep, something which we all donated a little bit of information in our weekly call on Sunday and talked about some of the things that we are hampered by in getting good night's sleep and how we handle that. Except for Med. Med was strangely quiet during that time. I don't
Yeah,
know quite.
I don't know what happened with my sound during the meeting, but I'm gonna let y'all know that I sleep in a bed. That's what I was trying to say.
We got that part. He was
in
kind
a
of doing
bed.
sounding and we were trying to
We
read
got it.
his lips and yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. He sleeps in a bed. And I was thinking that, you also donated to the power of a good nap.
very much so.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Very much so. Random
So
time.
let's let's talk about in today's newsletter. Cameron Riley writes about the Public Welfare Foundation, and he'll talk about that in the next segment with the guest, the president and CEO of the Public Welfare Foundation, Candace Jones. It's going to be an all Chicago affair. Got to warn you. As Candace is joining us not from Chicago, but as a Chicagoan. And so let's
And
talk
a
about
pizza, she's also a very, she's very specific in the pizza
Pizza
she
snob.
likes.
a
She's
pizza
a pizza snob.
aficionado.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much, Damon. Very much a pizza
yeah.
snob.
Yep. Because we were talking about Cameron's grandma and getting pizza tonight, and so we were discussing what the type of pizza, and she was like, "Oh heck no, oh no, I'm leaving. I'm not going to participate in your little conversation about the Public Welfare Foundation. I don't approve of your choices of pizza," is what she said to us. So let's talk about. I don't have my sticker. Did anybody have election day today, or was it just me in Texas?
I hope it was just you
Okay.
because I sure didn't make it.
Okay. Well, it
Here's
wasn't.
the crazy Sybil, here's the crazy thing. I think I saw somebody go vote, and I'm like, wait, that's here too? I could have sworn it was like Kentucky, like there was like 4 or 5 states that did it. And I'm like, I don't believe we're one of them. And I saw somebody, I'm like, I know what you did. That's an old picture. You don't know. You have no clue. Like, oh, it's election day. Let me just put up a picture of me voting. No, that wasn't here.
Right.
Foul photo.
We can't do
Right.
that.
Those of us in the state of Texas voted today in the Dallas or in Fort Worth, where I am. We voted on ballot amendments initiatives that they're talking about, like reducing our property taxes, please God,
Right.
as well as other issues. And we had about 17 things to vote on, not people, but ballot initiatives and things that they could not decide on in the state legislature. So they just shuttled it off to us for election day. In Houston, they're voting for a mayor, and that is where Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee is running for mayor there. A Supreme Court justice vote in Pennsylvania, and Ohio also had a big day in terms of putting abortion on the ballot and how people will determine whether Ohioans will make it, it'll stay a constitutional amendment and not in the hands of a Republican centered state legislature. Very important ballot initiatives that could have great importance in the 2024 elections and beyond. You mentioned Kentucky, Med, a very interesting race there for the governor. Andy Beshear is a Democratic governor seeking his second term, and he is a second generation governor of the state of Kentucky. His dad was also, but he is seeking to second term, as I said, against the African American Republican Daniel Cameron. How do I know that name? Daniel Cameron, Daniel Breonna Taylor. He was the man who refused to pursue the investigation of the police department, the Louisville Police Department, in the murder of Breonna Taylor. And so,
Mitch's guy.
yeah,
Until he wasn't.
He is a mentee of Mitch McConnell, and kind of like his political godson. I've heard him described as well.
It's something.
And,
it's weird.
And he was endorsed by Donald Trump also in this race for governor. If he does become governor, the first African American governor. But a lot of folks are watching this race very closely to see because Bashir is regarded as an up and comer in the Democratic Party, and of course Daniel Cameron is in the Republican Party, and whichever one wins will, his star will continue to rise within the party. But in some cases, even if they don't win, they continue to fail up. So we'll see how that works out.
That's how Joe Biden got to where he is today.
Well, that's what a lot of people say, Cameron, and that is, I mean, these are names that are going to be considered in the following years, in 2028 and 2032, and so on and so forth, as to who will be those candidates running for the presidential nominations in their respective parties.
Cameron with the zinger, though.
I have to keep going.
Yeah, but we gotta acknowledge that he don't drop a man. He meant that. Not only that, not only did he fail up, he fell up some stairs. I know we can't. I know. I look at Sybil.
Also, if I may continue, because we do have an interview in just a couple of minutes.
No, damn that. We're going to stay
I would
right
like to continue about other issues that we have in the newsletter. Black Health Matters discusses a very timely subject, 5 ways to deal with grief during the holidays. And it's really important because I have knowledge of friends who obviously go into a deep hole during the holidays. And as I said, during the Erica Campbell story today, my mom died during the holidays. And so from Thanksgiving to the first of the year, that was back in the day, was how my holiday. And so now coming close to Thanksgiving and looking ahead, those memories come flooding back, and tells you how to deal with grief during the holidays, as well as CPA to the Stars. Katrina Kraft gives key rules and recommended practices to gamblers, whether you are frequent or infrequent. She helps folks who are going through this. All right, so I will let you return if you'd like to Cameron's bon mot about Joe Biden and
high heat.
No, see, comedy has moments, and
I know, and I was hoping to avoid that moment because we do have other things to discuss.
Hey, I might as well go then. Bye.
Okay, you will be missed. Okay, so one of the things that we also talk about in the What You Need to Know newsletter is, oh, look who's back. Huh. Before we move to the What's Really Going On segment and discussing the Public Welfare Foundation, do you any of you deal with depression, and especially holiday-related depression?
When you brought it up.
No, it was what you were saying about your mother. Like, my mother died in April when I was 20, but her birthday usually falls around Thanksgiving. Or Thanksgiving. My mom's birthday would, every once in a while would fall on Thanksgiving. Yeah. And this year's Thanksgiving year for her birthday. So, wow. After she died, like, everything went out the door for us. For me, yeah. I was done with holidays. So I didn't really celebrate Christmas, Thanksgiving. I'd go to other people's houses and just grab.
That we should continue at some point. Right now, it's time for us to move to the What's Really Going On segment. And today we're discussing the good works of the Public Welfare Foundation. So let's welcome the president and CEO, Candace Jones. And Candace, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, how are you guys doing? I'm glad to be here.
Well, it's good to
Doing
have
great.
you, and I'm glad that we have you to move on in terms of the subject matter. And Cameron is
It
going
was
to
a
take
good
over.
discussion. I wanted to see everybody get into it.
Yeah, well, trust me, it'll happen again. Join us again, won't
I'm
you?
about to say, Cameron ain't gonna let that one go.
Cameron, why don't you take the lead here?
Oh, sure, Sybil. Candace, it was just to write about the Public Welfare Foundation in today's newsletter. And just for our listeners who may not be familiar, can you tell us a little bit about your organization?
Absolutely. Public Welfare Foundation is about a 76-year-old foundation. And we're a foundation in the traditional IRS sense, which is that we exist to give money away to other organizations that do good work. So we exist on an endowment, and each year we give a percentage of our interest earned to organizations. And specifically, since I've been there since 2017, we focus on giving to organizations that work on youth and adult criminal justice reform.
Nice. As we're headed into the holidays and Giving Tuesday is coming up, I understand you all are promoting your Give Local campaign. So why do you feel it's important to consider donating to community-based organizations?
That's a great question. You know, about 3 years ago, this is our third year doing it, we started a campaign about Give Local. One of the things that happened in the US is coming out of 2008, when you were tracking the individual giving of Americans over time, it was actually declining. And we know there were a whole host of reasons that were happening because of the economic things, the hardships that people were experiencing. And we started this campaign because obviously our job is giving, but coming out of 2016 and political shifts, people were giving again. And a lot of times they were giving to big national organizations, names they knew, things they saw on the news. And we wanted to remind people that just like politics, as you guys were talking about, so much of the impact of organizations is about what's happening around you locally. And so when people are thinking about giving, it can be really powerful for them to allocate the resources to the organizations in and around them in their community. And so what we like to do is highlight some of the organizations that we work with and fund every day and just get that information out to people. Folks should give to whomever inspire them, but we want to let them know that there's some organization that we're seeing that we're hope is on their radar.
And this, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Cameron. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, and this year, those organizations that you all are highlighting are ones led by formerly incarcerated folks, and highlighting the important work that they do in their communities. So how did you come to that decision?
We were thinking about, each year we try to think of different leaders that we're going to highlight. We wanted to be intentional this year about highlighting a suite of leaders. And we have in our portfolio of organizations we fund leaders in each one of our sites. We're in 8 jurisdictions across the country that are formerly incarcerated. We make it an intentional part of our giving because we think they have unique contributions to make to the field of youth and criminal justice. They can talk about from lived experience the way we really need to focus and address these issues. And so we said, why don't we do a campaign this year that really just focuses on highlighting their leadership specifically? And so that's what we did. We selected an organization, just one, not that there's only one in each one of these sites, but that we think we're doing great work. And we wanted to tell the story of the way they're showing up in their communities, because we think that's an important story to be told. There's so much power, both in what they can contribute, but also in the power of redemption in their stories.
And there's something, Candace, about knowing that there are leaders and heroes amongst us.
That's exactly right. That's
Right?
exactly right. I mean, you were just talking in the last segment about sort of how we struggle in the holidays with depression. I think many folks looking at the news can feel this sort of overwhelming feeling of hopelessness right now in this moment in history. And that's why it's so important to give and get engaged locally, because you remind yourself that it's like, we don't have to give up. Democratic societies, the kind of places that we live, run on the individual engagement of each of us. And we want to remind there's stuff you can do. You can show up, you can give, you can learn about orgs around you. You can be a part of the change you want to see.
Also, I would like to jump in and say that it's awesome that you're dealing with ex-offenders that have turned their lives around, because they become some of the most productive people. I know personally, I have a brother who did some time, and now he's a model citizen, and it's given back many times. And a lot of times we try to throw away people for their past mistakes.
That's right.
And like I said, a lot of people that get focused when they go and they get locked up and they sit down, unfortunately, they have to go through that to become the person that they need to be. So thank you, and I commend you for that as well.
Thank you for that. And I love you telling that story of your brother, you lived it. That's exactly, none of us are the worst thing that we've ever done. Right. And these folks have incredible contributions to make. So, I mean, it's like, we're not doing them any favors. Like, these leaders are incredible and standouts in the work that they're doing.
And a lot of times, people that can help with solutions are those who have been through the problems.
Right.
So that also makes them more effective in those circumstances. So really and truly, people out that are listening and hear us, it is very important, first of all, that you welcome your incarcerated loved ones home and help them get on the right path, because they can go on to be very productive people.
I love that there's an organization called Families of Family and Friends of Mandatory Minimums. They do advocacy at the national level, and they released a report last year that was called 1 in 2, which talked about the fact that 1 in 2 Americans have been touched by the criminal justice system. That's how pervasive this system is at this point in this country. And if we know that's true, our responsibility to welcome people home, as you say, is fundamentally tied into our own success as a nation. And so I think that's just such an important message and a thing we need to remember. These folks are a part of our society. We need to make ways for them to be contributing members.
And the message, I think, to the next generation coming behind is very important too, because if you see someone saying he or she made a mistake, but here he or she has come out like Damon's brother and are making contributions, then what I'm doing can make a difference too, and I can add to the betterment of our community, despite whatever problems I may have.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I can't, none of us are the worst thing that we've ever done. Some of us have to go through the system as a result. But the truth is that I bet if all of us are our most honest selves, we've done things that we wouldn't be proud of. And it's not a stigma that should follow us for the rest of our lives.
Like order Domino's pizza for my grandma.
For grandma.
Now, I don't know if I do that.
That's what grandma wanted.
It's $10.
I mean, hold on. Before we go any further, let's ask the hard-hitting questions.
Yes, please.
Chicago pizza, which one's your favorite?
Home run in. Home run in. Now you can tell everything about how you grew up in Chicago about West. Okay. Say I'm a West Side girl.
We can tell.
Clearly you got it from a pickup and takeaway, because they used to be racist as hell at that one. Anyway,
no, we wanted that in there. Look, we let whatever they were doing when the pop came, we just drank it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the head of the Public Welfare Foundation. Yes, sir.
Right.
We didn't ask any questions. We were like,
and passing up the pop. That's right.
Definitely from Chicago, because she said pop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Definitely.
Not soda.
That is the high sign right there. Candace, how did you come to this position? I know we've talked about it before, but remind people how you came to the Public Welfare Foundation.
I've done some form of criminal youth justice reform work my entire life. I started out as an attorney doing direct representation. And then I worked previously at the MacArthur Foundation as a program officer earlier in my career. I went into the federal government, worked on restoring Pell Grants to people who were incarcerated and to youth who were incarcerated. And then I ran for some time the youth prison system in the state of Illinois. It's funny because when you were talking about the holidays and depression, I always think, when I was running that system, I used to try to make it out to every facility over that Christmas week. And you think of just the thousands of kids all over the country that are nowhere near their families or loved ones. That's the kids, not the adults, and just have no proximity, no warm hugs, no reminder that somebody loves them during this time of year. And so I ran that system, worked for a while when I left there in violence in the city of Chicago, and ended up at public welfare, which became sort of like an amalgamation of all the things I had done before in my career. So I'm really pleased to be here and pleased to be a part of such an important issue in my mind in this moment in history, because I think there's a lot of opportunity for this country to get this right.
One of the things that I always loved him for, and there were many things that he did that were right, was Reverend Jesse Jackson. Every Christmas Day would go to a prison in the Chicagoland area or in the state,
Yeah.
and put attention on that
Yeah.
issue, that particular issue. And I think it is so vital that you, as well as other public figures like Reverend Jackson, would do that, because they are the forgotten.
Yeah.
As well as their children.
That's
I
right.
keep going back to the issue of children, but that the relationships that are formed there, or that are or continue to live between parent and child while they are in the system, is still so very vitally important.
I think that's right. You know, there's systems that I always tell people they're public systems, right? So the thing we forget mostly is that we pay for them. 92% of the funding that goes into the prison system is actually public funding, even though we spend a lot of time talking about private prisons. And they're systems that we know very little about. They're not transparent. We don't understand the data about them. People don't go inside. So having leaders shed light on those systems and transparency can change our expectations, because the truth is that they're human serving systems. They need to have some accountability. The public needs to understand what's happening there. And we can't leave those people behind. They're quite literally, at this point, millions of people impacted by them.
Right. And then bringing them home is another big part of this. And so you have the Give Local 3.0, investing in leaders shaping a more just tomorrow. And you talk about how the criminal justice system is a local issue.
Yeah.
And people can find out more about this by doing what?
They can follow us at publicwelfare.org on Instagram, on X, on LinkedIn, on all the things. They can also visit our website at publicwelfare.org and link to a specific page on the givelocal.us campaign. If you go to the Give Local page, we do specific profiles on all the organizations. You can hear directly from their leaders in the respective jurisdictions doing incredible work. And if you're in DC, Georgia, Mississippi, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Colorado, or Milwaukee or Michigan, I encourage you to check it out, because there's some leaders in those jurisdictions doing incredible work.
And talk about future formers, or a future former. What or who is that?
We talked about future formers because so much of how we refer to people who've been in the system is all about defining them by what they've done. Terms like felon, offender. We've come a long way in certain other fields where it's like you don't define somebody by what they've done. It creates a negative connotation. I think the best example is in immigration, where we move from calling people illegal aliens to calling them, migrants or we change the language around that. Unfortunately for Americans who've been impacted by the criminal justice system, we still haven't done it. Like, you're stamped a felon, you carry that imprimatur for the rest of your life, as opposed to being a person, with a prior felony. And so one of the things that we say is that they're formally incarcerated. They're defined by being formally incarcerated. And we just decided with this campaign that we were like, these people out here doing work, they're not just formally incarcerated, they're forming futures, right? They're shaping the destiny of the communities, of the kids that's coming. And we just wanted to take that language, we're all about, using and taking agency with language. And so we're like, they're future formers. They are shaping the future of the communities that they live in, the generations that will follow them. And so it really is to define the same set of leaders that we're talking about.
Some of these organizations are pretty incredible. I'm sorry, Damon, go ahead. I can come back to that. Go ahead.
Never mind. It's okay. Go ahead.
No, I don't. I don't want to stop the lighter moment. Go ahead.
Well, at least we call them ex-offenders. They used to call them convicts. So we're moving
some people
forward.
Still do.
Yeah. Well, some of them still are. Not the helpful leader ones, but the ones that's going back, they still convicts. But we're trying to uplift them all.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, that's exactly
help
it.
them
I
get
know
a
a couple.
foothold.
I know a couple of convicts. They're not trying to. But anyway, go ahead.
One of the things by going into your website, you can get a look at some of these organizations that are pretty extraordinary in states that you might not think about, but others that are in our backyard, as it were. I love, for instance, looking at New Orleans and Operation Restoration. This is the formerly incarcerated women
Yeah.
and led by them. And the mission is to support women and girls affected by incarceration to recognize their full potential, restore their lives, and discover new possibilities. Everybody should have that.
Yeah. Sarita Steib Martin is an incredible leader. She founded and runs that organization. She's a formerly incarcerated woman who left incarceration, was trying to apply to college, checked the box on a college application, and was denied. Applied again, unchecked the box, was
Yep.
admitted, and then made one of her responsibilities to run policy to change the law that
Wow.
was
Yeah.
discounting people from getting an education after incarceration. And we know, I mean, this goes to Damon's point. It's like a lot of times people don't have the opportunities to get back on their feet. If people who get educated and get access to jobs, their recidivism rate drops exponentially. But if we create all these barriers to people being able to do that, it makes it more difficult. And Sarita has become one of those leaders. She worked on the First Step Act. She's done incredible things in her tenure. So she, I think for me, just embodies what it means to be a future former in her work. And she's hired this incredible team of formerly incarcerated women to serve other women as they're coming out.
Sybil, she's hitting you with the big A words today. I heard recidivism, and
I
what was
love that imprimatur. Yeah,
no?
I'm
But
from
even
that.
before that, she hit the eptimomic. What was that? What was the term that that's messing with people's money, sort of that they're not giving because of the what? I need that word. Give it to me.
I don't even remember. All I got is home run in.
All right. I'm gonna
That's
rewatch
not bad from a girl raised on home run in, right?
this. Yeah, from the West Side.
I think that what you're doing here in the Public Welfare Foundation is akin to what the MacArthur Genius Grants do. You are giving people an opportunity to not only share what they are doing, but to expand it and to give them the cushion financially to go out and do more, right?
We hope so. And that's so much of the point of the campaign is sort of to use our, in addition to giving them money directly, to use our organizational platform to sort of lift and give visibility to those leaders so that people know that they're there. They can help them fundraise and have more resources for them to do their good work. It's always hard because when you're working with folks, I'll go somewhere and speak and somebody will be like, how can we, can we give something to you? I'm like, no. Visit this website, give this money directly to these leaders on the ground who are doing incredible work. And I think that's one of the best parts of the job. It's like we also have a responsibility to be the best fundraisers, cheerleaders on behalf of some of our partners out there that we know are sort of in the thickets and working real hard.
A lot of these organizations are in our backyard, as you said, Detroit, Michigan, Washington, D.C., New Orleans, Louisiana, and so forth. And you can take a look at these. How can people get more information, and how can we help?
They can definitely check out givelocal.us and look at the videos, hear from these leaders in their own voices. And each one of the videos, they'll learn about the organization. There'll be opportunities to link directly. If you're in any one of those sites, like it just couldn't be closer to you in your own backyard. And we have a heavy representation in our resources giving in the South and in the Midwest, because traditionally those have been areas of the country where folks just don't get access to the resources that they need to innovate and support good work. And so we want to make sure we particularly highlight organizations doing that work. They can always follow us at publicwelfare.org. We're doing this campaign right now. In the summer, we were doing some storytelling about youth incarcerated in the system. We're always going to be telling stories about the work where folks can learn more, get access to resources and information, both of organizations, but also just so that they feel like they have a better understanding of these issues.
I'm personally inviting you and putting it on our calendar. I'd like for you to come back this summer to talk about what you're doing in the summertime, not just have you on a yearly basis, because the year-round process of what you all are doing and keeping people going and lifting them up is really important.
I
So I
would
thank
love
you for your work you're doing. Thank you
the
so
summer
much.
is a critical time too, because the
Right.
conversation around crime and justice in the summer really changes. And so
Mhm.
it'd be good to be engaged in it in that moment.
Absolutely. Take a look at this, ladies and gentlemen. This is a great time, and I got to tell you, this is not selfish on my part. It is merely because I want to do good, and I was raised by a woman who encouraged me to do that. But instead of giving gifts to each other, let us make donations to organizations such as these that are highlighted on this website and do for others during this season of giving.
Love that.
Absolutely. Candace Jones, thank you so much for joining us again. We appreciate it. And
Thank
we're
you
gonna
all.
and we're also gonna send money to some of these organizations, but we're gonna send you gift cards to better pizza joints too. So we look forward to
Shots.
Don't send me dominoes.
You're a great sport. Thank you so much, Candace, for joining us. We
Y'all
appreciate it.
take care.
Lou.
And great job, Cameron. Check out his story in today's What You Need to Know newsletter as well.
Excellent, excellent, Cameron. Good job, man. You
Tough,
do a great
man.
job on a regular basis, brother.
And Cameron, I
Oh,
know that you have to go and do the good work for Grandma, so we will
took care of
excuse
it
you.
already.
Oh, all right then.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
Man, like lasagna, G moves in silence.
That
Yes.
Worst rap lyric of all time.
that's a hot line.
Okay, okay. Let's move to trending topics. As I mentioned, it is voting day, as I like to call it, and it started that term started on the Joyner show when the singer Joe came on and we were asking him about registering to vote and he said, when is voting day? And so that tickled me, and so it has stuck with me all these times, but
Thank you, Joe.
these many years later. So today is voting day in a number of states. You gotta love it.
This is
Look at
Joe.
me.
I'm just thinking about Joe saying that.
Right.
And he was so sincere. It was like, when is voting day? And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's today, Mr. Thomas.
I want to know.
I want to know. I like to know.
It's voting day.
It's voting day.
Please tell me, tell me.
That's a commercial right there.
That's right. That's right. You got
Oh
it.
boy.
And Yolanda
I like to
is
know.
dancing as you all are singing Joe right now. Just want you
Oh
to know that.
gosh.
Houston and Philadelphia voters went to the polls to elect new mayors. As I mentioned earlier, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee is in a contest, and it's a close one, running neck and neck with State Senator John Whitmore to be the leader in Houston, and that race could go to a runoff. Former City Council member Sherelle Parker is poised to become Philadelphia's first female mayor. That's hard to believe, but it is the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection. So we wish her luck in that. On a serious tip, meanwhile, abortion rights were on the ballot Tuesday as voters went to the polls for state races that will set the agenda, as I said, for next year's presidential election. A victory for abortion rights advocates in Ohio, where voters could enshrine a constitutional amendment protecting abortion access, along with success in high stakes races for governor. So, what's really interesting is that abortion may not be on the ballot directly like it is in the state of Ohio, but in states like Virginia or Commonwealth of Virginia, the governor is not running for office either. But what he is running for is a Republican majority in the state House, in the delegates, as well as the state Senate. So that he
Right.
can have all of that. He can have all the Republicans in the majority there. And then he can put into effect his hope for a 15-week abortion rule,
Mhm.
which most women in his commonwealth, as well as men and women throughout the country, are not in favor of. The 10 to 15 week rule denies people from even knowing that that woman or their partner is pregnant.
Right.
And so in making that you have to get it at that point, or the procedure is not going to happen, is grossly unfair to a lot of people. And so that is what the governor of Virginia is trying to do. And he is also making his stand to be considered as a Republican nominee for the presidency. If he can go and show, especially the big money makers and big money donators, in his effort to be a Republican nominee, if he can show them how strong he is in working this into his state, then they're going to donate to his campaign and perhaps push DeSantis or Nikki Haley or Tim Scott or Vivek Ramaswamy out of the way and make him the likely contender to Donald Trump. So he is looking at this not only for the immediate future of the state, the Commonwealth of Virginia, but also the future of this governor. And he did something very smart. It's sneaky if you're not a fan of his, but it's very smart. You got to give him his props. He sent out tax rebate checks and said, "This
that's
is
what you do, baby."
Yeah, this is we had a surplus, and just want you to know how much we appreciate you. The families will get who are accepted into this, who are can receive the $400 for families and $200 for individuals. And what is implied is, remember who gave you this.
Come on.
As you are going to cast your votes for all the members of the legislative branch in the state of Virginia.
Just like the governor of Georgia.
Yeah.
Who kept your businesses alive, baby. Who
That's
took
right.
the gas tax off when y'all needed it.
Yep.
Yeah, man. Stacey didn't stand no chance the second time around. not even close.
you got to laugh for crying, because that's politics.
It's politics. It's absolutely politics. I actually like the fact that Ohio's giving the people the choice in the matter.
The state of Kansas.
Yeah, I mean, give the people the choice. If they want it, they want it. They don't, they vote for it. Go ahead. The interesting thing to me, and I might be wrong, I've always thought there was like a 3-month like cutoff point. Like I always thought that after the first trimester, you pretty much couldn't have an abortion. I just thought it was, after the first 3 months, it was pretty much a wrap.
In most cases. As far as like women's safety is concerned.
Yeah. Right. Unless it's gonna harm the woman, like death. But I've always thought that it was like a 3-month like cutoff point where it's like, okay, after 3 months, it's like, ooh, wait a minute, let's not
also
do that.
Not only talking about the woman's safety, but think about this: making women go through with a pregnancy in which they are the victims of incest or any other type of rape.
Right.
And not giving them the opportunity to decide what to do about their future and the possibility of a child.
No, and that's always been like, when I've always thought about it, those were always the exceptions. But I just always thought that it was 3 months. I always thought that's what it was.
And you might think that the 24 weeks that others are asking for. Personally, I think 24 weeks is a long and perhaps too long of a period of time to make that decision. But that's just me. And I don't think that predominantly white men have the right to tell people who do not look like them and who they are not able, they're able to send their daughters or their partners to other states to have these procedures done, that they are not allowing in their states, right? Yeah. But to have these old, rich white men tell me what I can do with my body, and especially if I am the victim of a rape and find myself pregnant, and tell me that I have to carry out this life of a baby that, I can put it up for adoption. Yeah, absolutely. And that's their answer. Put it up for adoption. There are plenty of people who want, but you're not going through that process.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But here's my problem with the whole adoption thing. The GOP doesn't support adoption. They don't support foster care. They don't support, adoption agencies. They really don't. It is not a Republican thing to put money and funding into foster care. I'm like, if you care about the kids so much and you want everybody to have babies when they get pregnant, and the ones that don't want it, put up for adoption or put them in the foster care system, what are we doing about that?
Right. Yeah. So the money that you are going to put into, I need to know how you're going to take care of this child that you are requiring me to give birth
Yeah,
to.
absolutely.
Well, the way there's power for black men to sway this whole topic, and it's by going out and impregnating these rich white men's daughters, and then abortion will become readily available at every corner. You can get the pill, you can get the,
Right,
they don't
right.
want these black babies, so
And
just
look here, man, Damon's right, because what they say about gun control, you want gun control, have black men go ahead and become gun registered.
And that
same
is
thing.
scaring the hell out of them. Yep.
Black men impregnate white women and go get guns. We'll take care
No,
of
the
all
right
that.
white women. No, it's got to be the right white women though. It can't be just the average. It's got to be the senators and the congressmen's daughters. You got to go.
And don't forget Supreme Court justices. Yeah. So
Yes, start
that
there.
is- yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Problem solved. Fear of a black planet. Also in Ohio, while we're talking about the election, Rule 2 is on the ballot, and that is for legal weed.
That
Just so
was
you
my
all know.
next point. Yeah. For legalization of recreational marijuana for adults. Thoughts?
Give
Should have
people
been
their
legal
guns,
way
man.
before alcohol.
Yeah, give people their guns, dude. If they want to smoke
Yeah.
it so bad.
And their gummies.
Nobody's making babies by mistake smoking weed.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of people that exist right now thanks to alcohol. So alcohol.
That's my main thing. If we can drink alcohol, there really should be no problem with people smoking weed. If you're allowing cigarettes and allowing people to smoke
Drink,
tobacco and drink
Yeah.
alcohol, what's weed gonna do?
right.
And don't knock it till you've tried it, I guess.
You accidentally tried a gummy. Yeah.
I have to help me sleep, and it wired me out so much I was afraid to go to sleep.
Yeah, they might want to ban the edibles.
Because edibles are a different kind of notion.
That's a different
right?
type of animal.
Yeah.
You never listen. You never listen.
That is
It's like, only have
narcotics.
half
I'm
of it.
sorry.
Yeah.
Once you eat it, it's narcotics, man. It has a whole different effect. It has a longer, lingering, lasting effect, and it's uncontrollable. That part, but the smoking of it, the herb, before it's treated by man and made into a candy bar or a cookie, it's organic. I don't know what they're doing to these edibles.
Look, I thought my friend was sitting on the wall, and I demanded him to get down. It was a rough night.
And it started at Home Run Pizza. So in Mississippi, they are voting for a governor. And the question being asked, can a Democrat return to the governor's house after 20 years of Republican rule? The current governor is Republican Tate Reeves, seeking a second term. His polling numbers are really poor. He is knee deep in a welfare system fraud going on involving a former NFL player. Hello, Brett Favre. And as well as the water crisis in the capital city of I'm thinking of Jackson, Mississippi, where with the majority of the citizens are Black. 35% of the demographics of the makeup of the state of Mississippi are Black people. They make up 35% of the population. They should be at the polls early and often, as we used to say in Chicago. They probably still say
Absolutely.
it. In order to affect change in this state, and because of the way that he is run. And he's running against a man named Brandon Presley. And yes, he is Elvis's cousin. Elvis is back, and he is in the building, and his cousin is Democrat Brandon Presley, and he's banking on all the mistakes that Reeves has made, his lack of popularity, and he's hoping that some of that Elvis magic will be with him in tonight's election.
It's funny when you hear about Republicans always say, I don't understand how Democrats can vote for a blue state when you see all the crime and and I look at these Republican states and I'm just like, have you seen y'all states?
Right.
Have you I'm just like, there's less people, but there's like a lot of crime, then there's a lot of poverty, then the education is all to heck. What are y'all doing?
You look at
Ain't no
Mississippi,
money.
you look at West Virginia, you can look across the board at these states. You're absolutely right. And
I'm
you
just
know,
like,
talk
what's
about
going on in the red states? And I don't like, outside, and the outliers would be Texas, and maybe Florida sometimes. But outside of that, like Kentucky, I'm just like, yo, it's like, what are we? Why are
but
we voting for
we
the same
have,
people?
free will in terms of guns in this country, in this state, and so that adds to the violence in the statistics there.
Yeah. So I just don't, and that's why I really don't subscribe to just the party system. I'm one of those guys. There's problems with both. I have issues with both and things of that nature. But there's when I see GOP, the elite GOP, the ones with money complaining, I'm like, please take care of your states before you start talking to me about what's going on in these blue states.
I mean, it's hard to take a bite out of crime when most of your citizens don't have teeth. It's a lot of fentanyl, a lot of meth in all of those red states, a lot in West Virginia, Kentucky, rural Texas. So they blame it on the major metropolitan areas of the blue states.
And
but to be honest, crime is rampant everywhere.
Right, and they also blame it on the more liberal crime, the crime on the liberal DAs and what have you. Let's move to entertainment, and this really burns me. And I say, if this is from if you can't stand the criticism, then stop the action. That goes out to Lauryn Hill, who is responding to criticism all these years about folks criticizing her for being late to her own damn shows. She is fed up with the rumblings over her tardiness. She's been celebrating the 25th anniversary of her debut album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, with a tour. However, during the latest stop, she addressed the longstanding criticism she's never on time for her performances, to which she responded after she took the stage in Los Angeles for a concert, said she was slightly late and addressed her tardiness. She said, "Yo, y'all lucky I made it on this blood wrath stage every night. You're the lucky one," she said. "I don't do it because they let me do it. I do it because I stand here in the name of God, and you're gonna put God in it, and I do it."
That's a move that you always go with, just in case when you know you're wrong. You throw God.
Leave God out of it.
It's like singing gospel on the Apollo.
Ain't no y'all gonna boo Jesus? Y'all not gonna boo Jesus. but Harlem will.
She said, "I went around the world. I played the same album over and over and over again because we're survivors, and we're not just survivors, we're thrivers." Huh?
She said she played the album over again because no one showed up after her album sold so many copies to offer for her to do another one, which does not mean you cannot make new music and just put it out independently and perform it. It was her whole statement was way off base. It was
crazy.
It was banana, especially if you're an artist who depends on people to show up for your livelihood.
Right.
Yeah. It's crazy.
The thing about Lauryn Hill, I've always thought she just never cared about this. She really didn't. She's never really cared.
She's about the music, but she's not about the performances.
She could care less about that. And she's not really about the music because, first of all, she's lying. There's no way that you have an album that big and nobody wants to make more money off of you.
Right.
No. So that's a lie. And then,
unless you're really difficult to work with and you don't show up at the studio when the producers are waiting.
Damn.
Look, Damon, I would... To make money, they don't care. they'll figure it out. But I look, she to kind of disrespect the fans like that, outside of being late, and then disrespect them about being late, it's a lot for me. And I love Lauryn Hill, and the album is amazing. I
think her music is incredible. I think that she is a really great talent. But she did everything in this except compare herself to Madonna, who is also infamous for being late. But for whatever reason, people have, kind of adjusted, or they don't make as big of a deal out of Madonna being late for her shows. But
nobody goes to Lauryn Hill's show on time. If you have a ticket to go see Lauryn Hill, you basically wait about an hour and a half, 2 hours before you show up.
Yeah,
well, actually, I mean,
you only have to wait an hour for her to get there.
most of the majors do that. Jay-Z and Beyonce, Kanye, they all do that, but I think it's to sell merch, to be honest, on their part. So it's marketing and it's shrewd. She's just not to be found, and people are looking for her and they don't know what the heck happened to her. But if you go to the Beyonce when the Renaissance tour, it did not start at the stated ticket time, nor does so in that case, that's one thing. But her being AWOL and then sometimes canceling an hour before showtime or after people waiting 2 hours is a whole other thing, and it's her track record. Plus, for her to just disregard people's feeling, because there was one post that one woman had rented a car, got a babysitter, rented an Airbnb, drove 4 hours, and then an hour at showtime, after an hour and a half, they canceled the show. Right. That is atrocious.
I wouldn't look. You got to know who you're going to go see. I would never do that for Lauryn Hill. It's like it's too much of a risk.
And her girlfriends were probably saying the same thing, or her husband.
Somebody.
That's not a good idea. I know.
No, you might just want to go and find a DVD of her concert performance.
and not worry about the time, you know.
Oh, and then find a DVD player.
There's that. Maybe there's one at the Airbnb. I'm not sure. Let's close out with today's jewel. As I mentioned, the theme this week is about the importance of sleep. Did you know that sleep plays a crucial role in regulating emotions and mood, reducing the risk of mood disorders like depression and anxiety? So get yourself some sleep, and that'll also help you during this season if you are experiencing some depression. I'm just saying.
Yes, and before y'all lay down, get you some tickets to see Tony Rock this Thursday and John
Come
Hammond
on.
this weekend in Riddles.
and I didn't mention that earlier, Damon. You have a full November, December of people coming, big names coming to Riddles.
Kim Whitley, John. I got Dominique, Melanie Camacho, and breaking news: New Year's Eve, I'm on tour the whole weekend with DL, Sid, Earthquake, Bruce, Lunel, Mike Epps. We're doing the Straight No Chaser tour with New Year's Eve. It'll be at the United Center in Chicago. And we're doing DC, Houston, and Atlanta.
Nice. Well deserved, my friend. Well deserved. Thanks, you guys. Khameron, once again, great job with the Public Welfare Foundation. And I thank you all for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care. Aloha.